Time for my unboxing of this new Delta 36725 T2 contractor's table saw. So I've been waiting to upgrade the table saw that I have for some time. It's finally time. You can see that the box is a little beat up, so I'm hoping that when I start getting into this there won't be any damage. So I'm hoping for the best, but I'll take you guys through the unboxing and then we will go ahead and put it together. And then in a future video, I'll do a full review on it, but let's take a look at it. My helper's ready to go. Time to open it up. Alright, so once I take all the pieces out, I will use this. I'll make sure I have all my hardware and all my package contents, and then start putting this thing together. Alright guys, so I just took inventory and made sure everything is here. I'll give you an idea what that looks like. So it'll tell you all your hardware you should have and all your components you should have. I skimmed through, made sure I have all the bags. So bags A, B, C, D, E, and F, and then all my components appear to be here, and the legs and the main unit. So we'll get started with assembly. The instructions show to just leave this in the box, and then once we put the legs on after they've been assembled, then you can just tip it over. So I'm going to move on to that first step. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is put the legs together, and it's just as simple as setting these up, sliding that on, and then it says use hardware bag A, the first one, which is a bolt, a nut, and a washer. Insert the bolt from the bottom. Alright, next we put this assembled leg stand into the actual unit, and it just drops right in. And then we secure it with the other hardware in bag A, which is 4 bolts and 4 nuts. And if you don't want to fish this part out of the bottom of the box, take your time so you don't drop the nut. Now I just need to tighten it down with a 10mm. I'll use my impact to get it mostly done so it's quicker, but after that I'll switch to the socket so I can feel how snug I'm making it and get it to where I want it to be. Alright, so now that they're snug, I'll just come and hand tighten it so it feels good. You want it tight, but obviously you don't want it so tight that you're bending in the metal. So you gotta just feel it. Once it's pretty snug, just get a little bit more. It should be good. Alright, next we need to put the wheels on. Grab your 2 wheels, and then the hardware from hardware bag B, which is 2 bolts and 2 nuts. This is also a 1/2 inch. We're just going to snug this down. It doesn't need to be super tight. That's what the nylon lock nut washer is for. Next, we'll screw in the adjustable feet. Alright, so now we need to tip the machine over and stand it right side up. So I put down a carpet just so I'm not scratching anything up. So the next step is to put the front rails on. The front rails are bigger and thicker than the rear rails. So we'll go ahead and grab these front rails, and it's going to be, there's 12 nuts and bolts in the hardware bag D. So that's the one that is the right size for these rails. So we're going to put these front rails on and secure it with this hardware. This is the left side, the short side, and you just go to the 2 mounting holes like that. So now these are movable. Now I just want to try to line these up. Okay, so looking further in the instructions, it does start mentioning the use of this, even though it showed it on the picture in the previous step. This is the rail alignment gauge, but before we use this, we need to use the rail union plate and mount these two together. Once we do that, then we can use this gauge to properly align these before we tighten it all the way down. Alright, so to do these, we just put the screws in through the top, and then we'll put the plate underneath. It's time to tighten the union plate that connects these two front rails, the left and the right. They provide a T-handle Allen, which I'll just go ahead and use that, and then it's an 8mm for the nylon nut. And so what I'll do is I'm going to kind of tighten them both evenly in the beginning, so I get it to where it looks like it's lined up nice, and after that I will do the final snug down on it. Okay, I'm starting to feel it snug. Alright, so next you need to use this gauge, and we're going to tighten these bolts that hold the fence rails in, lined up with this gauge here. So we want to try to make it match like that. So that's going to be our guide. So let me snug it a little bit more. Now we get it to where it kind of holds it. Okay, let's try that. I'm just tapping to get this gauge as close as I can to where it needs to be, and then I'm going to go ahead and snug it up a little bit more. Good. All right. So my hope now is all tight is that I'm still pretty much lined up with this gauge. Looks good. You see it pretty much is square everywhere. Okay. Alright, so that's the front rail. Alright guys, so time to attach the rear rails. So these actually are up this direction instead of like that where the front was. And we're going to use the hardware from bag C. And it just has a nut and a split lock washer. We'll line these up here, get them started, and then we still use this rail gauge, but we use it in a different way. Alright guys, so working on snugging this rear rail up, you can see that this gauge actually has a lot of play between the top and the bottom. I don't know if it should be lined up to the top or the bottom of this gauge. So I'll probably just eyeball it and put it in the middle. This is gonna maybe need to be adjusted later when we put the extension wing on to make this truly level, because I don't know if this should be on the top or the bottom of this filler gauge. So it doesn't say anything in the directions, it just says use the slot to line it up for the appropriate height. So I'm going to just snug this down. It's basically in the middle of that. And same thing here, it's basically in the middle of that. So in the middle of the slot of the gauge is where I chose to go with this. If we need to adjust later, we will. But right now, that's in the middle of the slot, and that's in the middle of the slot. So we'll go with that. And then we do the same thing to the left. It's going to be the same hardware. Get 2 more from bag C. So it's almost snug. Let's see what we got. That's better. That's better. All right. Now these line up. Okay. Alright, time to start attaching the 2 wings. And you got to use hardware from bag C and D for this. And once we get it started, we're going to want to use a square and a straight edge and make sure that we're where we need to be. First, let me get my bolts in. Alright, so I'm going to just hand spin these to where they start to catch. Alright, so I just hand tightened the 3 bolts that are holding this into the table. I'm also going to attach the rest of the hardware. This is that original hardware we used to attach the front rails. There are still more of those that I'll be using to attach these rails to this table as well. And the reason I want to do that is I want to get all these kind of snugged in because they all will help in the alignment of how this extension wing sits. And so my goal is to get them all kind of snug, move around the table and the extension so they're all nice and lined up. So if I look here, I can see I'd like this to be a little bit higher, like that. Come to this side. I need to have a little bit more height on this rail to totally square this up just a little. So I'm going to do that now as well. So that looks good. Just tightening it all down now. So one thing I've noticed, guys, just so you know, these metal extensions aren't perfectly flush the way the cast iron top is. So this cast iron top actually is really nice and true, but these are a little bit, you can see it's level there, but it has a little bit of a dip right there, just very minimally. And back here, not so much, not as bad. But what I wanted to be sure of is when we're leveling this all out, see this corner right here? You want to make sure that it's not sticking up too high. And the same on this back piece. You want the whole thing to be level, but I erred on the side of letting that little edge there be a little lower, because when you're sliding the fence back and forth, it's going to start catching on that. So you want it to be as level as you can right around there. Alright guys, time to do the same process on the other side. So first I'm going to put the extension wing in. Okay, now it says to attach the spreader bar, and we're going to use the rest of the hardware that's in hardware bag D to finish that off. We're just tightening these up now. They're hand snugged. good. So I'm just gonna grab my 1/2-inch wrench. There we go. Just find somewhere I can snug it in real quick and tighten. Same thing over here. Find where it will fit in. There we go, and then tighten. Alright guys, we're finally getting somewhere. It's starting to look like a table saw. Time to attach the fence guide. So first I'll get the right fence guide, the longer one of the two, and we're in the hardware bag E, the last bag. So there's the bolts that go with these. I'm just going to get started. Okay. It says to leave the screws loose on this one. Looks like that's going to slide right in there, like so. A little finicky. There we go. It says not to tighten these all the way until we mount the power box. So I'm going to leave it loose like that. Okay, next what we need to do, we've got our 2 bolts in this part of this left side. Now the far left is where we're going to hook up the power, the kill switch. So what you want to do is take the last 2 bolts, which are different than the rest that were in that hardware bag, and we'll line it up here, the bottom of this rail. There's one. That, and then we just need to snug them down, which I can do one with this because it can clear that, but the other one, this isn't going to work. I'm going to need to use a wrench. So let me see what size wrench we need. Alright, so I grabbed the right wrench to finish this up. It's a 12 millimeter. So that can squeeze right in there like that and get this thing all snugged up. Then we can tighten down the other 2. Okay, now we just need to make sure this is level. So let me grab my level. Alright, so the fence guide rail left and right are both installed. Just grab the level, and I'm hoping it's going to be nice and flat. And looking good. Alright, so the last parts out of that hardware bag E is a little screw and a little clamp to mount your wire here. So we're just going to slip this on like so. Figure out where we want it, and then we'll put our screw in and tighten it down. Alright, so the 2-pack of handles needs to go in next, and these are for both your wheels, your elevation and your bevel. So they're the same thing. One's going to get screwed on right here. And the other's going to get screwed on over here. Alright, and then you can tighten these down with the 9/16. There we go. Okay. And the last glass handle goes on the rip fence, and it's labeled specifically for the rip fence, so there is a difference. All right, so let's screw this in. And then we'll tighten it down. Go. Beautiful. Wasn't even ready to try this yet, but since it's already on here. Nice. All right. All right. Next, it says just to check the alignment of your riving knife with your blade. It's supposed to be pre-set, but they say it can get changed or dislodged during shipping. So I'm just gonna take a little look. That looks good to me. That looks good to me. Yep, it's right on, so we don't have to adjust that. Okay, it's time to put the throat plate in. Now this is only gonna go in one way, you don't have to worry, but it goes in this direction. This faces the back. So there's little notches here that will slide in first, and then you'll drop this down. And then these holes here are where the adjustment screws are. So if you need to adjust this up or down a little bit so it's nice and level, you can stick a screwdriver through here and adjust it. So let's go ahead, pop it in back first, and then the front, and it'll just pop into place like that. Your blade is lined up, so you know you got it the right way. And then we'll use our level. And if we need to change anything, we can. I actually have a smaller level so it won't go across everywhere, and we'll keep it true to the table. So that looks pretty good. It's not too high. That looks pretty good. Not too high as well. So I think that will work. If you needed to raise it a little bit, all you'd have to do is back off the leveling screws that are in there. But it's very, very close to level, and if anything, you want it a little lower than higher. You don't want it higher because it will catch. All right, so your anti-kickback paws, they just get installed. There's a little spring button right here, and you push that and it opens this up inside where it will fit. And you'll just turn this so you can slide it in, push that button to release it, like that, and just push it down. You're set. Whenever you need to take it off, just push that button and take it back off. So just rotate it down, push your button, and lock it in. All right, to put the blade guard assembly on, all you have to do is take it, hook this metal underneath that, so you're going to rotate it around till it slides in, push it forward, like that, and then clamp this down. And now you're locked into place. When you want to unhook it, lift that metal tab, rotate it back, and take it back out the same way you put it in. So it's quick and easy. That way you can easily put it on and off whenever you need to. All right, so the setup is done. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the fence on real quick and get the miter gauge and see what we're looking at. There we go. Now I'm just going to take a couple measurements, make sure that everything is straight and lined up. So, and I want to see if my miter slots are the same, basically 4.5, just around it, 4.5. That looks like it lines up. And then I'm going to see if the fence lines up to the miter slot. So we're just going to go this way. Put it right on 4, and then check it here, right on 4, check it here, right on 4, right on 4. Okay, so this miter and the fence are perfectly in line. That's what I wanted to see. And then I can check the fence. That's right at, I can read a 6 on there, and I can read a 6 on there. So this is all lined up just how I want it to be. So everything's true on this side. I can always measure the other side later, but that gives you an idea of, all right, let's put the attachments where they go. So your push stick goes right here on the right hand side, like that, and snap it down. There you go. All right, your miter gauge, when you put that away, stores right here underneath the left side, like that. Okay, your anti-kickback pause goes right in here. And store it in there. And your blade guard can go right in here, like that. And lastly, your fence can be stored right over here. And that's it on the assembly of this Delta contractor saw. Hope you guys found this video helpful and informative. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.